All right, so we are going to dive in today on all things narcissism. It's one of those, I would say, buzzwords as of late, but really we're just talking about toxic people as well. And we'll get into more of the behaviors and what you can look for. But the first place I really wanted to start is with you because so often in these relationships, the focus is on the other person, their behavior, how draining they are, uh, just the frustration they can provide. All the focus can be on them. When in reality, where I often can get a sense if someone might be in a toxic relationship is how are they doing? So I want you, if this is you or you find yourself in one of these relationships, to really kind of dive in for a second and think about, are you exhausted? Do you feel like you're losing your mind? Are you confused a lot of the time? Because you can see the one words I have in red are like disorienting, overwhelming, crazy making. And the ones I have in kind of the smaller black are oftentimes these relationships, there still are moments of good and joy and fun. And it really is that roller coaster of, I think this is fun and exciting, but wait a second, I just feel like I'm about to fly out of my seat, right? And so that's always a good place to start if you're in one of these relationships, is to, especially over time, monitor, am I moving towards health in this relationship or is it hindering me? And to really allow yourself to kind of take a personal inventory on
Hmm.
how are you doing physically, mentally, emotionally, relationally? Do they affect other relationships in your life? Um, and allow yourself that opportunity to really kind of unpack these last X amount of months I've been in relationship with this person. It can be a work person, it can be more of an intimate, setting, personally and professionally, whoever it is. Have I, and you're going to have ups and downs in a healthy relationship, but for the most part, these get worse and worse and worse over time. So it's a good place to start is with you.
Are most of like the folks that would have signed up for this, would they have signed up because of a partner being considered a narcissist generally? Because I think my situation is a little bit different in that, immediately I'm thinking of this person that I'm having to work with now. And so, um, is that change anything?
Um, in terms of who might sign up, you're
No, no, just in
oh,
terms of,
not, I would say pretty much yes and no.
yeah.
Yes, in the sense that as we kind of go through, the underlying behaviors are probably the same. It just might look or feel a bit different in a more personal relationship versus a professional relationships. I guess, does that kind of make sense? I think
Okay.
as we
Yeah.
get as we get into it, I'll kind of answer that more and
Yeah.
then pop back if you need more clarity.
Okay.
Um, but yeah, I kind of want to just start with, okay, who are these individuals? You might hear the verbiage out there. They're a narcissist, the NPD, narcissist personality disorder. And this is what the DSM-5, the psychology, the diagnostic manual has them, their traits listed at. And it's key to note they have to have 5 out of 9 to
Oh,
be diagnosed with this, you could say. The
oh,
hard
okay.
part is because you'll see with a lot of these traits, these types of individuals usually often don't enter into therapy because they usually don't think anything's wrong with them. And so to get an actual psychologist, therapist to say, yes, they have MPD disorder is very rare. But as we go through these, you can kind of take a note. So the first is they have the grandiose sense of self-importance. There's this underlying, behavior that they're often exaggerating achievements, talents, It's that grandioseness that often we can see, maybe celebrities or people that we might be like, huh, they seem to love themselves a lot, right? The second is they have a preoccupied, or they're preoccupied with fantasies of success, power, brilliance, beauty, or love. There's just this constant kind of need for adoration, for more, for status, for image. And number three, they believe that they're special and can only be understood by other people who are special. There's that kind of I'm above, right? Everything, every oneness. Four, they require excessive admiration. They don't really, it's hard to give them criticism. It's hard to give them feedback because really all they want is admiration. Five, they have a sense of entitlement. You might see this at a restaurant. You might see this as they don't feel like they need to wait in line, even little things like that. Six is they take advantage of others to achieve his or her own ends. So there's just, again, that sense of often things are very transactional with individuals. I'm going to engage in this relationship with you because it's going to give me something. It probably is going to give them a sense of success, power, brilliance, beauty, love, whatever it might be. Seven, they lack empathy, and this is a really, really big one. They lack empathy, just unwilling, unable to recognize or identify the feelings or needs of others. Unless I've seen as well, it can be more of a performative empathy where they know how to kind of turn it on when they need to, of like, oh man, I'm so sorry. Maybe it's in front of like a group. And so all of a sudden they can turn on the tears or turn on the empathy. But it's what's called more performative empathy. Eight is often envious of others, believes that others are envious of them. Nine, arrogant, haughty behaviors or attitudes. So again, it's just that sense of I'm bigger, I'm better, and you are here to kind of serve my needs. And so, you read those and it's like, oh gosh, this sounds awful, right? Who would be friends with this person, right? Who would be in a relationship with this person? Who would not be able to right out of the gate, maybe put up boundaries. But as we get into it, you'll see, of course, they often don't come across this way. You can have what's called a grandiose narcissist, or you can also have a vulnerable narcissist. The grandiose is more overt. So these behaviors are going to be more visible, more outward, maybe more spoken. Whereas the covert, which to me is more the sophisticated and potentially more damaging as well, the covert, the vulnerable, is more sly, is more passive aggressive, like the picture. It's the wolf in sheep's clothing, where they present themselves in such a way, but really underneath they're biting, they're ready to take advantage of you, and can be incredibly damaging. So again, the key with this is to remember that, and that's, I guess, maybe doesn't feel accurate, the popcorn, it seems more funny, but the key is, someone can have flavors of this, or like, oh my gosh, they're so selfish. Maybe they're a narcissist, but I say that to like get out your popcorn and to take a step back and really observe someone's behavior over time. Because to really have the tendencies of narcissism is to have a consistent pattern of behavior over time, where you have seen example after example of these different instances kind of ringing true for that individual. And again, at the end of the day, it doesn't mean if there's someone like this in your life, you go around and say, oh my gosh, you tell everybody they're a narcissist, right? But more important is to identify the behaviors and what you're seeing, and to protect yourself appropriately in light of that. Because a lot of people don't understand this word. They think it means oh, they're selfish, oh, they're into themselves. But again, the more you get into the behaviors and the fact that there has to be, at least five out of these nine that you can see in someone's life, you can see how there's much more to it than just they love themselves, right?
Yeah.
Kind of thing. So again, outwardly, these are some of the kind of things that you can go through the diagnostic list like that and be like, okay, whoa. These are always my watch points, are the four C's that I see in someone that cause me to kind of pause, step back, and say, okay, let me observe more of this person's behavior. The charm, that's a big one. And this is when we're talking about kind of wolves and sheep's clothing. They can be very chameleon-like. I know who I need to be to you, because again, if the focus of them, and it is to get, what they need from certain people, they're going to be able to turn on the charm, turn on the charisma, high levels of confidence because they think they're great and special and all the things, right? Usually not often, but oftentimes they're very competent. And so sometimes I see the danger is individuals like this get shift into promotions. They get so excited about these new hires because they're so confident, they're so charming, they're so charismatic. They know how to work a room, right? They're the best salesperson, they're the best communicator, whatever it might be. And often it becomes a powerful mask and until they get in close relationships with different people, and then the harm and the hurt really starts to happen. But then it becomes incredibly damaging because you have a sea of people around them that see all this, experience all this, but then those closest to them are in the throes of manipulation, gaslighting, passive aggressive, just demeaning comments, things that are really damaging to an individual. So that's kind of just um,
Can I ask a question real
yeah,
quick?
go for it.
So, can you give me a definition for gaslighting? Because I've never really understood that.
Sure. So in the shortest, kind of simplest version, I would say like it's somebody who's undermining your reality. So if we both go outside and I say, man, the sky is really blue today. Wow. And you're like, well, no, it's more of a gray black. Um, and you just constantly undermine your reality. And you start to switch or to slowly um kind of make you doubt, make you question, oh, yeah, maybe they're right. Maybe I'm not
Okay.
seeing that right. And so
Okay.
the term originally got coined, if you know that movie Gaslight, way, I forget what year it was. And then there's been a rendition of the movie, but it got coined in the movie. There's a woman in the house and she's kind of meant to be kept in the house, and there's a light on in the living room, and the husband comes, and every now and again he'll just turn it down slightly, turn the light down, dim it just slightly, and she'll be like, oh, man, is it dark in here? And he'll, no, it's fine, right? And all the
Okay.
while he's just tinkering with reality and coming at her like, no, it's not like that. When in reality, it's exact right. She's seeing it accurately. And he's
Okay.
just messing with her reality that caused you to doubt what you think, what you feel, um, that you makes you turn around and go, okay, yeah, maybe I'm not seeing that right, if that makes sense.
No, it does. And I kind of thought that's what it was, but
No, yeah,
you
and
know,
I can
I
send
wasn't quite
you,
sure.
yeah, as somebody who unpacks it probably much better than I just did, a video that will send you that's really, really good on it. Um, so a really key part of what we'll just call narcissistic abuse, if they're going to, of course, be spectrums. It's said that, narcissism runs on a spectrum. So you can have someone who kind of have flavors of it, but they maybe aren't full on like malignant narcissists, they call them, where they're just straight up evil. Um, so again, depending on who you're dealing with, but if you're in one of these relationships and they are someone who's, very abusive, very, taking advantage of you, there's a very clear cycle that you engage with these individuals. And that first part is often called love bombing. And this often happens in the first weeks, months, it could be years even. Usually it's weeks and months where it's this idealized stage. Normally it's just called love bombing, where they're almost like the perfect person. They're a great boss. They're a great friend. They're a great, they're very good at, in those early days, listening, understanding who you need them to be. Words of affirmation, gift giving, over the top affection. Again, it can be just, you're doing a great job, whether it's a work situation. We're going to look at really wanting to promote you, a lot of that future faking. So there's a sense in those first weeks, months that, oh my gosh, this is amazing. This is I can't even imagine a better sense of that. And then it moves. It's almost like once they know they have you in their grips, it shifts to, that's when the kind of manipulation starts. That's when the more mental, emotional gaslighting, where you get a little more kind of underhand comments, right? Where that's like, wow, they've never said anything kind of that, biting to me, or they start to, maybe cheat behind your back. And so things like that, where you then start to feel a bit devalued. And you're like, oh, whoa, okay, honeymoon stage is over. Oh, okay, I understand that. But then often they'll go back and they'll go, and then you feel maybe rejected. And basically this cycle just goes around and around often, unless they full on just cut you out of their life, or you cut them out of your life. But the cycle is very real because oftentimes it's basically back and forth between love bombing, devalue, discard, because people will say, well, if these relationships are so bad and so awful, why don't like people just leave, right? Just break up, just divorce, get rid of them, whatever, change your job, whatever. It's never that easy because they've kind of got you in their grips, because they'll go back to love bombing. You're like, oh, okay, this is who I remember them to be. But then, further on they'll go to value, and you'll become, you'll be get gaslight and all that kind of stuff, where that confusion, that exhaustion, but you're still remembering and often hanging on to those good times, and you're still seeing flavors of it. So it just leaves you kind of deeper and deeper in the cycle. And what usually happens in these moments is the person who has a high conscience starts to take responsibility for the entire relationship. And then when they're like, okay, it's not going as good as it was, I start to hear things like, well, maybe if I just adjust myself here, maybe I'm not communicating, as good as I could be. And you start to justify, and they start to make excuse for the other person of, well, I think they're maybe going through a lot right now. Well, they just had this and this happen. And all of a sudden, this starts to be kind of the reoccurring theme over the next, remainder of the relationship where it's like if they just did more, if they just adjusted here. Um, and you really have to divide that line of what is your responsibility and what is their responsibility. And there's much more we could get into that, but so so far, I guess that kind of makes sense.
Yeah, it does. It
Yeah.
absolutely does. Yeah.
Um, so with that, and this very brief, quick overview is like, okay, what now? So maybe you've identified some themes, maybe you've picked up on some bad behavior and you're wondering, what now? Where do I go? There does feel like I am confused. I am frustrated. I am exhausted. The first step is to breathe and to, I say, to go back to really make sure you're taking care of yourself. So how can you pull back mentally, emotionally, physically, relationally that allows you a little more time just to kind of see reality for what it is. And so a big part of which, we've talked about is identify those behaviors to get as clear as you can on what you are seeing, the behavior, how often it's happening, what is happening, in those moments when they communicate something and it feels very manipulative, it feels like the underlying behavior here is there they go again, just making sure they get their needs met. So really to be clear on those behaviors, and once you have those, to be able to then identify, okay, what are the boundaries here I need to set in place? How can I, and that usually is, again, depending on the intensity of the relationship or the amount you have to interact with this person, is often kind of the degree of the boundaries, as well as you might try something, it kind of doesn't work. And then try something else. So that definitely is a practice to work out. But any kind of, yeah, overall questions. I know I kind of want to keep it, I wanted to keep it just 30 minutes to give a kind
Sure.
of lay of the land. But yeah, anything you wanna, I can
Well, I think yes, and I have read about narcissism, and I'm a nerd, and I've thought about it, and
share.
I
Yeah.
and been around. I'm in the workforce a lot.